So, what if I told you that the future of storing everything, I mean, all our photos, our videos, the entire internet, isn't going to be on silicon chips? What if it's inside the very molecule that makes us? Well, us. Today, we are diving into how DNA could become the ultimate, maybe even everlasting archive for all of human knowledge. Seriously, think about it for a second. That picture you snapped this morning, or your most important files, where are they going to be in 100 years? Forget about 1,000. The truth is, our entire digital world is incredibly fragile, and that is a way bigger problem than you might think. Okay, let's get right into it. We are creating data at an absolutely explosive rate, but our ability to actually store it for the long haul? It's shockingly bad. We're staring down the barrel of a potential digital dark age, a future where people might know less about our time than we know about, say, ancient Rome. To give you a sense of scale, by 2025, the total amount of digital data in the world is expected to hit 160 zettabytes. That's a 160 with 21 zeros after it. It's just a ridiculously huge number. And the real challenge isn't just finding a place to put all of it, it's keeping it from just disappearing. And this right here, this really shows you the brutal truth about our current tech. Your hard drive, you're lucky if you get 5 years out of it. Magnetic tape, which is our best shot for long-term storage, maybe lasts 20 years. That means data centers are in this endless, expensive cycle of copying data from old tapes to new ones. But synthetic DNA? We're talking centuries, maybe even millennia. So that brings us to nature's own hard drive. It turns out that after, 4 billion years of evolution, the best information storage system on the planet was right inside us the whole time. Let's take a look at what makes DNA, the actual blueprint of life, the perfect candidate to be our civilization's archive. At its heart, DNA is really just a long molecule made of a sequence of 4 chemical bases, A, T, C, and G. You can think of it like a 4-letter alphabet. So instead of the ones and zeros of computer code, we can translate any digital file into strings of these 4 letters, basically turning that file into a real physical molecule. So what makes DNA so special? What are its storage superpowers? Well, it comes down to 3 things. First, its density is just mind-blowing. Second, its lifespan isn't measured in years, but in centuries. And third, copying it is incredibly easy. A process called PCR, which is basically a biological photocopier, can churn out billions of copies of a DNA archive in just a few hours. And when I say the density is mind-blowing, I mean it. Theoretically, you could store 455 exabytes of data in a single gram of DNA. Let's put that in perspective. An exabyte is a billion gigabytes. We are talking about storing every bit of data humanity creates in a year in a container roughly the size of a coffee mug. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do you take a picture from your computer and turn it into a tiny tube of molecules? It's this really fascinating process that's part computer science, part biology. This workflow here breaks it all down. First, you can press the image file, just like you would to email it. Step 2, an algorithm encodes all those ones and zeros into a DNA sequence of A's, T's, C's, and G's. Step 3, a DNA synthesizer literally builds these molecules from scratch. Then you just store it. To get the image back, you just reverse the whole process. You use a sequencer to read the DNA, and then an algorithm decodes it right back into the original digital file. Pretty neat, right? Now, it's not quite that simple. The processes of writing and reading DNA, they're biological, so they're not perfect. They can introduce errors. Think of them like typos in your code. So the real cleverness comes from designing encoding systems that can handle these little mistakes. You're basically up against 3 main biological hurdles. First, if you have long runs of the same letter, like A, that can confuse the machine that reads the DNA. Second, the chemical balance between the G and C bases has to be just right, or the molecule can become unstable. And finally, any kind of repeating pattern can cause the sequencer to slip up and make a mistake. So the solution is this really smart encoding algorithm. Instead of a chunk of data always turning into the exact same DNA sequence, this system has multiple options. It uses a kind of pseudo-random approach to pick a DNA code word that avoids creating any of those problem patterns. It's like having a bunch of synonyms to choose from, so you don't sound repetitive. It makes the whole thing way more reliable. So, we've got the theory, we've got the process, we've even got a fix for the errors. But does it actually work? Let's take a look at the results, because the proof really is in the picture. The numbers here really do speak for themselves. This table shows how efficiently information is packed into each letter of the DNA code, and this new method hits 2.14 bits per nucleotide. That is a pretty significant leap in storage density over the previous best attempts. More data, same amount of DNA. And here it is, the visual proof. On the left, you see a standard test image, perfectly brought back to life from the DNA it was stored in. That's because they sequenced a bunch of copies and used a computer to find the most accurate version. Now look at the right. That's what you get if you don't correct for those errors, just a noisy, corrupted mess. It's a really stark demonstration of why that error correction step is so critical. What we're looking at here isn't just a cool technical achievement, it's a total paradigm shift. This points to a future where our data isn't something that fades away, but something that's truly permanent. We could literally build an archive of human civilization that could outlast any library, any monument, any empire. Just imagine that for a second. Every piece of art, every scientific breakthrough, every book, all of our collective history, stored in a format that's stable and won't decay. It would be a legacy for the deep future, a message in a bottle made from the very stuff of life itself. And all of this leaves us with a pretty profound question. If we really had the power to create a library that could last for tens of thousands of years, what would we choose to put in it? What parts of our world, of our culture, of ourselves, would we want to preserve for whatever or whoever comes next?